going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Viall. What is that?
Ask Nick.
Ask Nick. Welcome back to another episode of the Viall Files Ask Nick edition. I am your host, Nick, joined by the household. We got Leia and sweet boy Justin with us. We are days away from Valentine's Day. Do you ever say Valentine's?
Valentine's, as in like the time?
Like, do you ever say Valentine's wrong? I've been known to do that. I have to always enunciate because, like, I mumble sometimes.
Okay.
You've never been accused of saying
No,
Valentine's?
I definitely mumble.
Yeah.
And it's Valentine's, not...
Valentine's.
Yeah.
Do you get it wrong?
No.
Never.
I mean, just this word in particular, like, is not one of the hard ones for me. I do mumble.
No. Words are hard usually for
Words
me.
are hard.
So Valentine's is this week. Do you have any big plans? You and
No.
your husband really get into Valentine's?
Not really.
What about you and your partner?
Keeping it like simple.
Because you guys are newly dating.
Yeah, it's fairly like new, so I think it's like good to just like relax, get a dinner, and then we're just gonna vibe.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't even thought about it with the baby being here.
Right,
I think
this
we're just
year's
gonna love on each
different.
other. I'm sure I'll do something. I've never been more in love than
Yeah, now you have two Valentines
Oh my
instead of
God,
one.
so much love.
True.
I don't know what we're gonna do. And we're recording this a bit early. It's not. We're not 2 days away from Valentine. Hopefully, I'll have some sort of plan by then. But I imagine we'll keep it pretty simple.
Simple's good.
you
Yeah.
know. Anyways, just remember, all you single people out there, it's just a fucking day. It's not the day to feel sorry for yourself. It is not the day to throw a pity party because you don't have a Valentine. Just remember, most people in relationships during Valentine's Day just fight over it. Probably, I don't know if there's a stat out there, but I would bet ballpark figure 60 to 70% of people in relationships end up being disappointed on Valentine's Day. At least the women. I don't know if men give a shit, which is probably part of the reason, part of the problem.
There's a lot of hype around Valentine's Day,
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah. Just try to connect with your partner.
Yeah.
You know?
I will say too, if you're single, buy yourself flowers. I worked at Trader Joe's, and it's not a stigma. Everybody buys themselves flowers.
Whatever it is. Maybe for me, I'd get myself a massage.
There you go.
You know, treat yourself
Mm-hmm.
is really I think the point you're trying
Yeah.
to make, Justin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
celebrate with a friend.
Yeah.
Valentine's.
Girls' night out, you know? Hang out
Yeah.
with the boys, play some vids, you know? Don't let the bros don't be a sad bro on Valentine's Day. Can you imagine a bunch of like bros just like, man, I'm not in love. I think that is the direction we're going, though. There are way more single men than are single women out there. I'm worried about men. I know society isn't that concerned about men these days because society loves to bash them. And it's not that men don't deserve criticism, but I am worried for the younger generation of men. I am. I mean, no, I'm joking now, but I think we're not too far away from men truly feeling, sad and lonely on days like Valentine's Day where other people are celebrating love. Not to bring everyone down, anyways. What do we have to get into before we get to our fantastic callers?
So we thought that we would play a little game with you since you are now a parent.
Ooh.
So we pulled some TikTok
I love games.
trends. We pulled some TikTok trends that parents are doing around the world.
Like crazy parents and their kids?
Yeah. And we want to get your
Are these
take.
are these good trends or are these bad trends?
I'll let you decide.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a TikTok where, I mean, I know Jimmy Kimmel does this every year also, where he does this YouTube challenge where parents will tell their kids after
like their kids,
Halloween
yeah.
that they ate all their candy.
It's a
So-
pretty funny one. I've seen that one before. I would do something like that. Yeah, I could see myself having fun. That's playful.
yeah, it's playful.
I feel like
but-
that's pretty harmless.
Yeah, you just have to tell them like right away that you were joking. Like, don't
Yeah.
let it linger.
Yeah, you can't get too much satisfaction around torturing your kids.
Right.
Like, why are you trying to make your kid cry? Like, it's
Yeah.
like this one. You got an endearing reaction from their kid. Like, that's okay. Like the understanding child. Something like you're proud of your kid. The ones where the kids turn into like little assholes.
Yeah. Which
Like,
I'm sure a lot of them do.
yeah. Clearly these parents are good. This is a good parent. The one we saw because the kids handled it pretty well.
Yeah, I guess it's a test to see if you're a good, you've
Handling-
raised your kid right.
Yeah, to handle disappointment.
Yeah.
It's a life skill, handling disappointment.
Yeah.
What else we got?
Okay, so this is a TikTok trend where parents are cooking with their child and they're cracking an egg into a bowl, but then they hit the egg on their kid's face instead and to see their kid's reaction.
The fuck?
Yeah.
Oh, that kid is so cute. See, like, obviously, this is very cute reaction, but no.
Agreed. So they actually, there was a Psychology Today article that came out about this where they were just saying that hashtag egg challenge is like really bad. Like it's psychologically bad for kids.
Yeah, like, why are you hitting your kid
It's unnecessary.
Yeah.
on the forehead?
It causes like mistrust. Like these are your parents. You're supposed to
Yeah,
like.
I mean, the Jimmy Kimmel, like, Halloween candy one, I feel like that's as far as I would go. But I don't ever want to use my kid as a fucking gag for an online TikTok trend. I mean, right now, obviously, we've been sharing content of River, and obviously, like, she's like stunning. So like, we obviously want to brag, but like, and Natalie and I kind of have these ongoing conversations. I don't know what our policy is going to be. I suspect as she grows and turns into the lovely young person that she's going to be and gets her own distinct features, I can see ourselves pulling back a little bit. Like, she's definitely not going to be like part of the influence. Like, we'll figure it out. Like, we don't really know, but we're not going to use our fucking kid for like fucking gags and stunts and mock them.
Yeah.
And shit like that. I guess to each their own, but like, no, that's so fucking ugh. It's yucky.
It's gross.
Are there more of those?
Like on that same vein?
Yeah.
Not as bad, no.
The throwing the cheese one, though.
What's the throwing the cheese one?
There's this trend where to get a baby to stop crying, they just randomly walk up and throw a slice of cheese onto their baby's face. It works, but I mean, I'll let you watch it.
Okay, that's kind of cute. It gently lands on the you made it. I thought it was like a fastball into their face.
Some parents do it that way. If you've seen some of the videos, they like chuck it out their face.
Yeah,
no, that was like a light flop on the top of the forehead, and it seemed to work, but it goes too far with some parents. I don't know, man. Like that was fine. The little flop, harmless. It actually, the baby seemed to enjoy it.
The baby seemed to just.
But
be
you
like,
literally can't miss, and by miss, I mean like you can't be like, oh shoot, oops. Like you can't go too far. You know, this is not the time to push the limits. Like gently flop it on the baby's head.
Yeah.
If that doesn't get a reaction, move on.
Gently flopping a piece of cheese on a baby's head is very different than forcefully smacking a hard-shelled egg onto a kid's face.
As a content creator / influencer, like anything else, you have to redo shit. You have to take 5 selfies or a few takes before you get the, whatever it is you need to say for the thing you're trying to say, or, and I'm not talking about like, hey guys, I'm holding my baby, or just like showing our dogs, but like when we're influencing, or even if we're doing like having fun with like one of those lip syncing things that we do with some of our guests, like. We get it wrong. We have to do it again. We have to do several takes. Like the moment you start doing that with your kids, you're making them fucking work, And then you become like their director. You stop being their parent. And the moment that you start thinking about, oh, we got to get this right because we want it to do well. Ugh.
Yeah. I think this would be, once the kids get older, but when people become like family influencers.
Yeah.
It's just like
you can see some of those, and I can tell like these kids that do multiple takes,
and they're miserable. Like you can tell that they don't want to be doing this. Like they want to be playing outside with their friends.
No, it's nuts. Ugh. Are there more?
Yeah, there are more. Let's do the Nutella one.
Is there a cute one? Maybe.
Okay, so the Nutella challenge is where the parent will be in the bathroom and they'll kind of like wipe Nutella on their hand and tell their kid that they need toilet paper, and then their kid will bring them toilet paper, and then when they grab it, they wipe Nutella on their kid's hand and pretend that it's
no.
Yeah.
Immediately no.
It's mean.
No.
Don't
even need to see it. I know. I've heard enough. Some
of the kids' reactions are really sweet though. They're like, "It's okay, mommy."
I fine. I get it, but like,
it's mean.
It's just.
It's
the fact that people are doing it for the clicks and trying to confuse and not knowing what type of reaction your kid might get just seems icky. I don't like I don't like the kid trends.
Yeah. Well, this one's a key one, the bathroom challenge.
Should we do the bathroom challenge?
Let's do the bathroom challenge.
Okay. So the bathroom challenge is once the kids get a little older, people are putting them in a bathroom and saying, okay, you can say bad words here and only here. And then they'll leave the room while the camera's recording and see what the child said.
That's interesting. That
It's cute because it gives them a safe space.
Does she know any other?
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
That's cute.
Okay, that was cute.
That's really cute.
That was pretty cute.
Some of the children, they won't say anything. They'll just like sit there and be like, okay, I'm done.
Well, the fact that she knew what a bad word was is kind of endearing to know that she shouldn't say it. Mama has a potty mouth.
Yeah.
Bitch. Bitch. Like, I love that she was like, wait, I said it. Is it okay?
It's cute that
That
she
was cute.
also knows. Yeah, it was cute.
That was cute.
That was cute.
All right, that was fine. No tricking. Like that to me is just like, all right, yeah, you can go. I'm giving you permission. You can do this. There's no deception. There's no making something is gross when it's not gross, like the Nutella thing. Like, why are we making, I bet there's fucking videos out there of like parents licking the Nutella off their fingers before they, I guarantee you that's out there.
For sure.
Guarantee you that's
just to freak their kid
just to
out.
freak their kid out.
Yeah, it's the ones where the kid is the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
Those are the
perfectly
ones
said.
that are bad.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
butts the joke.
Okay, this isn't really a trend, but I'm curious about your take on this one. So it is a trend that going around where beige moms must be stopped.
What are beige moms?
So beige moms are, those houses where you walk in and everything is beige and cream and white.
Okay.
So
What's wrong with that?
there's nothing wrong with it, but a lot of people are coming down on moms who are beige and like only let their kids have like an aesthetically beige life. Like all their clothes are white or beige, all their whole room looks like that, and they don't let any color in.
Okay, that's a little weird.
So there's
But I mean,
just
also are they
controversy
doing any harm? I don't know. I guess it just depends on what that conversation looks like with the mom and the kid in terms of like why they can't do something.
why they can't have color.
Like, yeah, like the fact that you would limit your kid to certain choices because you don't want it to like fuck with your aesthetic.
Right. That's the controversy there.
Is that what it is? Can I see an example of a beige mom?
Yeah, so it's basically just a video of, she's showing her aesthetic and all the aesthetically pleasing baby things. And then, you can't help but get gifts from people that are going to ruin your aesthetic.
Yeah, but like but what we just saw, I don't get. I don't know.
There's just a divide of.
I feel like this is like a Karen comment. If your kid walks out and says, "Mom, I want to get this shirt or whatever," again, like discount, like not assuming like budgets and like people can afford. I mean, shit, like it was when I was a kid, it was like what we could afford at like rummage sales.
Mhm.
Like I didn't have the luxury of like certain choices. But yeah, like let's assume it's like a privileged parent with the funds to buy their kid whatever they want, and not letting their kid wear certain clothes or do certain things, but spray painting a Christmas tree that they let them decorate, I don't think is the end of the fucking world. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of to each their own. Like if you're treating your child well, there's food on the table, there all the, it's like you're allowed to have your things that you like
Yeah,
too,
I mean, I posted a picture of River, and she was laying really straight with her arms down, and I posted it in Instagram stories, and I just like wrote like a caption like planking.
Oh yeah, the
I
plank.
saw that. That was
I
funny.
saw that. I thought it was funny too.
And then some girl replied back, "That's not planking."
Oh my God.
Now I assume that this person was referring to like a plank for like working out when you're on like your. I mean, I assume, I don't know, but like you're a Karen when you feel the need to correct something and give your input that's something that you may not agree with that is not harming anyone. Now, this particular parent that we saw, like they're suggesting that like because this mom spray painted a tree, they're fucking up their kid's development. I don't know. I think that's going a bit too far, but like, I don't know. Mind your fucking business, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, don't use your kid as a prop. Don't make them the butt of a joke. Don't use them for clout or clicks. And that's not to say like, yeah, like bragging your kids and show a nice picture of them and they do something cute that you're proud of. And yeah, like, sure. But like, don't turn them into like, child workers.
Yeah, and I also feel like at the end of the day, there's no way that these beige moms are like throwing their kids' colorful toys away. Like
that's the thing. Like beige moms don't even know if they're beige moms. Like I don't know. Now that I'm thinking about it, I could be wrong. Maybe I'm not operating with all the information, but the people against beige moms sound like a bunch of Karens. Like, mind your fucking business. Like, why is this girl on TikTok leaving a Walgreens making a video about some other fucking mom who was minding her business and decided to like paint a tree? Let's assume she painted it with like child safe paint, didn't affect anyone. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Who gives a shit? Yeah. Don't be a fucking mom, Karen. Mind your fucking business. Anyway,
I agree.
do we have a writer in we want to get to?
We have a writer in her, and she emailed in. Her tagline is "How to get over someone I never committed to."
Okay. Hi, Nick and the household. I need some serious advice. I don't know how much information you want in these emails, so I apologize if this is too long. Here goes nothing. I was in a casual relationship after my divorce for 6 months. Never made it official because I wasn't ready. I made some questionable choices during that time, leaving the door open for other people and not giving this person the full reassurance that we were exclusive. He wanted to be exclusive from the beginning, but he also wanted to be patient and supportive. He stuck around and agreed that he could do casual. He put in his best effort and planned cute dates, trips, concerts, and always wanted to be present in my life. I knew I had strong feelings for him and the kind of instant connection that I had never had with anyone before, but for some reason, I felt so strongly that I deserved to be single during this time in my life and not to give in to the pressure of a relationship. I didn't want to close the door on other possibilities because I felt so much failure from committing and being loyal to the wrong person when I got married. I needed therapy a long time ago, I know. All of my subsequent actions were based out of fear and not a reflection of how I actually felt about him. It's like my head and my heart constantly battled each other, and it became hard to gain clarity of my emotions or what to do. However, during those 6 months, he was very understanding of my situation and how I felt about commitment at the time. He chose to stand by me, support me, and show up for me always. He continuously reiterated how much I meant to him and how much he cared about my growth and healing as a person and a potential girlfriend, wife, and mother of his children. That's how strongly he believed we would work out. We had so much in common and made countless amazing memories together. Eventually, he had to go out of state for training related to his career. It was going to be a month apart from each other, but we couldn't wait for it to be over so we could see each other again. During this time, it was hard to stay as connected as usual because of the distance. I felt a shift in communication, and right before he was supposed to come back, he let me know that the new position he was training for has now relocated him 3 hours away from where I live. In his career, there's nothing he can do to refuse that type of move. I know that's not very far, but he knew that I don't prefer long-distance dating, and he felt defeated and devastated by the news because he didn't want to lose me. At least that's what he told me. Very shortly after that, he dropped the bomb on me that he decided to start moving on and moving forward with his life and the idea of us ever being together. He had disconnected from his feelings and was no longer invested in what we had. This text came only weeks after he told me that I was the only woman he ever truly loved in his life, which he had told me on more than one occasion. He had told me numerous times that he could never stop loving me and he would wait until I was ready. In his defense, I had never promised my full commitment at this point, and I did try to explore another connection, which wasn't fair to him. However, the abrupt disconnection of his feelings and everything he ever said to me came as a huge shock. There was no closure, no real conversation over the phone or FaceTime, and no conversation face-to-face before he moved. He had promised me that we could at least talk in person when he got back from training, but weeks went by without hearing from him. Ultimately, I asked what was going on, and he informed me that he met someone and started dating them. In a matter of weeks, he said a conversation is not going to happen because he respects her and feels that it's inappropriate and that there's truly nothing left to say between us. He never gave me the chance at that point to say how I felt about long distance and how I truly felt about us and the whole situation. I didn't get a chance to fight for him or express my true desire to be with him and only him. This sudden end to the relationship all came as a complete and utter shock. I'm still living in that shock 3 months later and can't let it go. I know that I was in love with him and I let him slip through my fingers. I ruminate over every decision I made last summer and can't understand why I was so hesitant to begin with. This leads me to several questions that I have. How do I ever truly find closure when something ends so abruptly and shockingly with no conversation and so many unanswered questions? How is the person who was so outwardly in love with me be the one that could emotionally move on and invest in someone else so quickly? Why do I think about him every single day still when I was the one who had a problem committing in the first place? Why do I feel like he did me so wrong when I arguably did him wrong first? How do I come to terms with how it ended when I never even let it be a real relationship? I look back and think about every amazing quality he embodies, how strong our connection was, both mentally and physically, how much he pushed me to heal and grow, and I truly feel I lost my person. If it was the wrong timing, that must mean it was the wrong person, right?
Okay, well, I mean, she asked a lot of questions. Let's just go through them one by one. How do I ever truly find closure when something ends so abruptly and shocking with no conversations and no unanswered questions? Well, again, as we always say, you don't get closure from other people. You get closure from acceptance. So you just have to accept it's not what you thought it was. That's the big takeaway. We always have a hard time moving on from things because we would glorify them and we don't accept it for what it is. We obsess over what we thought it was or we wanted it to be and things like that. So, if you're looking for acceptance, you don't need a conversation with this guy to try to get him to articulate why his feelings have changed so abruptly. And then how is a person who was so outwardly in love with me, the one who could emotionally move on, how could he move on so quickly? Well, the fact that he moved on so quickly is probably part of the reason why he was so emotive with you. Now, that doesn't make him some sort of love bomber, but there are people who fall fast. There are people who love to get swept up in the emotions of things. They go 100 miles per hour. You had a connection with this guy, and listen, you didn't want to, for whatever reason, you weren't ready. But the fact that, me and Natalie, we've talked about this over and over about the beginning of our relationship, and for 9 months we had a casual relationship. We were not exclusive. There could have been a point where I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? I wish I fucked up. Let's date. She could have said no. And yeah, I would have been sad and devastated, but eventually I would have came to the conclusion that, yeah, for all the reasons that maybe go, this could be my person. Him moving on so quickly discredits some of the things he said to you in the past. And not because he's a love bomber or that he was, manipulating you or had bad intentions, is that he got clearly is someone who gets caught up in his emotions and he had very strong feelings for you. You didn't respond in kind. That kind of was discouraging at times. And then finally he probably did meet someone else and just as quickly fell for her. So this is a guy who falls fast. That's his track record, it sounds like. And why are you so upset? Because we always get very upset when we lose power in any situation. And you went from having the power, you went from being in control. He was the one pursuing you. You were the one always saying no to him. And then all of a sudden you lost that control. Even up to the point where he got promoted and had to go 3 hours away, you were still being like, well, I don't really like long-term relationships. That was our right or inner taking advantage of the power that she had by, letting him know, well, I don't just, I don't know, I don't do long distance. He's like, all right, well, fine, fuck it, and now you have no control. Now he has told you, now he's setting, at first it was her, this is my boundary. This is my expectation. I can't date you. And valid reasons. You just got out of a divorce. Maybe you didn't want to jump into a committed relationship. And it was honestly probably the right decision. It's one thing to say you're going to be patient. He didn't show that he was willing to be patient. And that's fine. And I'm sure you had a strong connection. And I'm sure there was a lot of great things. But now you're glorifying all the great things that you had with him but may didn't have with your ex. You've only dated 2 people in the past, I don't know how long of a period of time it sounds like. Oh, maybe 3 people. But it sounds like there's another guy in between there or something. But it doesn't sound like she has an extensive dating history. She has this other guy, this guy, and then her ex. Maybe she needs to get out there and start dating. But the reason why she's feeling this way is that she lost power. And she went from having power to losing that power. And that just fucks with our ego. And then it makes us, have feelings like regret. And it makes us question things like, did I fuck up? Because our choices do matter. Maybe they could have had a good thing, but most likely the fact that he did move on so quickly and he did find someone else so quickly and he was ready to enforce that boundary with her tells me that connection that she thought she had with him wasn't as strong as she thought it was. And that this is a guy who says a lot of big proclamations because in the moment he might have strong feelings, but those feelings don't stand the test of time and aren't as strong in reality Because like if they were, they wouldn't go away so quickly. If he was that into her, if he had that strong of a connection with her, it wouldn't be that easy to meet someone else. I mean, you know,
Right.
you just wouldn't. So stop ruminating. Stop saying you didn't lose your person. You lost a good guy you had a good connection with. And the fact that he doesn't want to be with you, it does you no good to obsessively tell yourself, I lost my person. There are literally billions of people in this world, and you can have multiple people can be your person. You can have multiple intimate connections with someone. And again, the fact that he was so quickly to move on means that clearly this connection wasn't as strong as he implied. So don't make it worse by telling yourself a lie and obsessing over it and beating yourself up and things like that. Just accept that maybe it was just bad timing, learn from it, but I don't even know how much there is to learn. It makes a lot of sense that you didn't want to jump into another very intense, serious relationship with someone who clearly has a track record of falling fast. And maybe you weren't ready for it, and that's okay. So I think you are just kind of beating yourself up. And more than anything, I think the loss of the power that you felt with him is messing you up. And I think accepting that will help you get the closure that you need. What do we have lined up for our callers today?
So we have 3 callers. Our first caller is in a situationship with a coworker who has a cum kink. Our second caller is wondering whether her married coworker is flirting with her.
And just so you heard that right, a cum kink.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly how it sounds. What's our second caller?
Our second caller is wondering whether her married coworker is flirting with her.
Okay.
And then our third caller is calling in because her mom won't accept the fact that she left the Mormon church.
Okay. We love a good religious fallout. There's some good ones. There's some bangers. I hope you guys enjoy them. All right. Let's get to our callers.
Question time with Nick. Let's ask Nick your sexy questions.
How's it going?
Good. My name's Sophia. I'm 28, and I am in a situationship with a coworker who has a cum kink.
A cum kink?
Yes.
Okay. What is a cum kink?
Well, basically, and I'm not kink shaming anybody, but
no, we don't yuck anyone's yum, but we are curious.
He eats his own cum.
Oh, okay. Of course. Yes, of course. Yes. Say more.
So I met this man at work. We work in similar industries, and typically I don't like to date within my industry. So I was already very hesitant, but he had really pursued me. We already had some boundaries within kind of dating, since it was long distance and of course the work thing. But he had really, tried. So we met up a few times, and then he would FaceTime me to kind of have sexual time, I guess. And one of the times that he FaceTimed me, he was jerking off, and then he was taking the cum on, and I was just having a cup of coffee. I wasn't.
You're just sitting there watching the news, so to speak.
Yeah. Real Housewives, actually. And
there you go. Which one? Which one?
I watch all of them, Nick. Okay. I'm obsessed.
All right.
He starts playing with his cum and then licking it.
So he finished.
I think it was pre-cum.
Okay, so he was just almost scraping the tip, so to speak, and then licking his finger.
Yeah, sucking on his finger and giving me this look, I was supposed to be oh my God. And I just went like this because I didn't know. I just covered my mouth because I didn't know what to do. I was so surprised,
Yeah.
I just, maybe he could have told me before that was a thing he liked.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't, not to give too much away about my sexual prowess, but I like to think I'm exploratory, but I don't believe I have anything that kinky in my arsenal, so to speak. So I've never had to figure out a way to deliver something that I've, wondered if, that most people might find untraditional, so to speak. So I don't know, but I, like you, I agree that something like that, you would think they would have to explore some sort of delivery as opposed to, I guess it is, one approach. It seems like what he did was just to kind of act like, what's the big deal?
I think it's because he didn't take me seriously. He didn't really care what I thought. So he's like 15 years older than me. He
Okay.
is like very like a higher tier than me. He's a man in the industry, and I'm in a highly male-dominated industry. I'm probably one of the younger people. So I think he didn't really care what I thought of him, to be honest with you.
What gave you that impression? Because he did pursue you fairly aggressively, right?
Yes, but I think it's really untraditional and kind of frowned upon to pursue somebody. There's a lot of stigmas behind it within the area that I work in. It's healthcare. It's not really a good look. So I feel like if you really do pursue somebody, you have to be very sure about it. So that's what I was kind of conflicted about. But he was inconsistent with his texting and we were long distance. So I found that to be a little bit annoying. But also, like, he very early on had initiated like some sexual comments, which is like fine, I guess. But I don't know, I would take it very slow with people that you work with. But one of the things that kind of also led me to his cum kink is we would send pictures, and he would send me pictures of a glass of milk with like as like part of the, sexting. And I didn't understand that. Then he would send me a picture of his cum in a glass as if to simulate a glass of milk.
Yeah. Was there another picture of him drinking it?
No, but I was like, what am I supposed to do with that?
How much of this kink have you seen? Like, he licked the tip, what we think is pre-cum. He sent you a glass with his cum in it. Have you seen him go full on eating it all, so to speak?
Then I remember when we met up one of the first times, like we kind of hooked up, and I really didn't want to like give him head. I didn't want to make him come. I didn't want him to make me come because I kind of catch feelings. So when I was saying like, I ended up like giving him head because you know how those situations go. And I was like, okay, but I can't make you come. Like I have to leave now. And he, I guess I really got him going that I was like, no, no, no. And he just came all over me and he like loved that. So I've seen him lick his cum on FaceTime. And then one time we ended up having sex. And as he was coming, he's like, I want you to lick my cum off the sheets and I'm going to lick it off with you.
Okay. That's unique, I guess.
Yeah.
So I guess, listen, other than you telling a very wild story, which we appreciate, what are you hoping to figure out? Have you talked to him about this kink?
Well, that's the thing. So the kink, honestly, I could deal with. I'm not like, I think it was interesting. I think maybe warn me about it. But basically, I'm kind of hurt by this guy because I was very resistant to this relationship. He really pursued me. He had me come out to the East Coast for the holidays. I mean, our families are both out there. But I met up with him in Manhattan. My family's in Connecticut. His family's in Jersey. He was like, oh, I'll pay for your flight change, like, which was nice because it's expensive, you know. I got my own hotel, but he was like, let's get hotels together, blah, blah, blah. He was very touchy when we met up. Like finally, that was the first time we like ended up actually hooking up. Right after we hook up, I felt like he was distant. And then the next day, he suddenly came up with a sudden family emergency. He had to leave Manhattan that night, but he was going to hang out with me, have dinner with me. And then the whole evening, I just felt like he was being a little weird. So at dinner, I kind of like called him out and I was like, hey, can I get a read on you right now? Like, I think that you had good intentions here, but as soon as I feel like you got what you wanted, you seem like you're not interested anymore. And he was like, you actually are so intuitive. He says this to me. He goes, I just been thinking about it. You're vegan. That's stressful for me. But I've been vegan for 12 years, Nick. It is not stressful for anybody. It's a very easy situation.
You're upfront about that. He knew this the whole time.
He's like, we don't live in the same states. Like, he's like, you don't know if you ever want to get married, which he went through a bad divorce like 4 years ago or something. He was the one saying how marriage is a construct. And like, I'm kind of like neutral about it. Like, I'm cool with kind of whatever.
Yeah, it's not even on your radar. You're just looking at making connections with people and hoping to find people who want to respect your time as much as you want to respect them, and you want to build a relationship, however traditional or untraditional. Like, you're open and you're clear about that. And he was kind of throwing all this random shit in your face.
Yeah, and I felt like he like abandoned me a little bit because the next day he was supposed to, like, after we spent 2 days in New York together, he was supposed to like drive me to Amtrak. I had like two 50-pound suitcases, like, and he, oh, I have to leave tonight, like to go for this family emergency, which like
Do you
sounded
know what the family emergency
like
is?
bullshit. And he was telling me,
Sounded like bullshit.
it was a surgery that had come up, but I mean, surgeries aren't usually that like spur of the moment. They're usually kind of scheduled for what it was. And also it's like we had kind of planned this. Like it was like the cousin of his.
When you think back about all these interactions you had with this guy, I'm getting the impression there were a handful of moments where your body was like, or, spidey sense, whatever you want, red flags. You're like, I don't seem kind of off. And then you found a way, as we often do, because you liked him. And, it wasn't all bad. It was a lot of charming things and a lot of things that you were attracted to. So in the spirit of trying to be understanding and being empathetic and being open-minded, which, that's the tightrope we all walk when we date people, but as you look back at all these interactions with this guy, does it feel like maybe you ignored more red flags than you should have?
Yeah. And I have a lot of regrets about that, especially like hooking up with him. I wish I didn't do that so much.
Okay. So other than feeling regret and beating yourself up over it, like, I guess, what do you think you could have changed? I mean, what's done is done. You hooked up with them.
I feel like I did ignore a lot of the red flags, and I kind of noticed this trend a little bit in my dating history. I've like crowdsourced my friends because I'm like, do I attract, like, is there something about me that's attracting people who kind of do these types of things to me? Like, I was very open about, if we sleep together, like, it's going to mean something to me, and I'm going to be hurt if it's just nothing to you. And then that's exactly what happens,
Now, how long are you waiting? Also, this guy pretty quickly was introducing sex into the relationship. So, listen, he's a guy, guys are sexual in nature. So, it is tough. I empathize with the position you're in because even the good ones, so to speak, if they're physically attracted to you, like you start bringing up your attraction, like it can turn sexual pretty quick, right? And even the good ones, the guys, when you hook up fairly early in a relationship, it will always kind of, I don't know, it just fucks with our brains, so to speak,
It was like 2 months though. We have been talking for 2 months. And the first time we actually like made out and like gave each other head, I guess, was 3 weeks into it.
That is an unfortunate reality of hookup culture where when I was single, I was in this boat with you. Like Nally and I hooked up very quickly in our courtship, whatever you want to call it. And part of that was luck, part of that was luck of us kind of figuring out, introducing intimacy and sex early in our relationship. And that that just always complicates things,
Mm-hmm.
And 2 months, yeah, like that's a decent amount of time to wait, but it's also like in 2 months, you still don't know a lot about each other type of thing, as you kind of are realizing. So why do you think you're attracting, like from your standpoint, instead of talking to your friends or whatever, if, you look at your dating history, forget about like, do I think I'm attracting the wrong men? What are some characteristics that you seem to notice being a pattern in the men that you are dating?
Emotionally unavailable.
Okay. And in what way? So give me an example of this guy, the first time that you maybe were alerted to his emotional unavailability.
I would say when we were texting, he would go 2 or 3 days without responding to me, or even just taking 2 hours to respond to a text. Mm-hmm. Which, like, I'm not saying like you need to text me every hour, but it's like if we're having a dialogue, it's difficult to have a conversation. And then when I would be like, hey, like, what have you been up to? I haven't heard from you in like, 2 or 3 days. Not so like accusatory. I say like more casual, kind of more chill. But he'll say things like, oh, I've just been so busy. I've got a lot going on. To me, that's him being like unreal. Like I've done that to guys before that I'm not that interested in. I'm not giving them a lot. I'm not really thinking about them. That's why I'm not texting them.
That is, God, it sucks because, Nally and I have even been open about that, in the sense that they're, you could argue that on some level we had some kind of situationship early in our relationship. And you could argue that on some level, my behavior was fuckboyish in nature. We had very open communication. We were, but at the same time, there were times where, I was disconnected intentionally because I, wasn't sure about this is something I could do, and I had my own kind of insecurities about it. But regardless, my behavior was inconsistent and things like that. We made it work, eventually. And she had to do the whole like, you know what, I'm done. Fuck you. I'm going to start dating other people. I need to like stop giving myself access to this guy. And I responded, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what I'm saying, it's like on some level, you're just going to have to, if you're going to keep pursuing these type of men who in their middle age have successful careers, I guess that's probably something you're often at 20, are you often dating older men on some level?
I think the thing is, I'm actually so open, Nick. Like my last boyfriend was 25, which he thought, I won't even get into that. When I was 27 at the time, he was 25. He didn't have a job. He's got like family money, but he was like, we had a lot of fun together. Like I've dated younger, I've dated older. And I just find that like time and time again, they try to break down my walls. Like I have pretty good boundaries.
Okay. So you dated a 25-year-old who didn't have a job, but had family money. And then here you are dating a guy who's 15 years older than you, who it sounds like he's pretty successful in his job.
He's very successful.
He's very successful. Okay. What about some of the, like, I guess what I'm saying, when was the last, and again, I'm not critiquing the guys you're going after. I'm just trying to find patterns. And it's not like, is all these other guys, have there been unique things about them that you were attracted to? As opposed to maybe like, a guy who was an accountant who had a pretty vanilla, regular 9 to 5, so to speak.
Like not too long ago, I've had like things sprinkled in with people, but I guess my other last serious relationship was somebody who, had kind of like a normal job. And that was really fun. He just had crazy ADHD. I mean, he could not focus.
I think the biggest takeaway is, and this might be somewhat discouraging, no one's going to protect your heart more than you. And I think you probably, like a lot of people out there, especially women, in an effort to be over communicative, will say things like, listen, like here, I want to like be honest where I'm at. And I'm hesitant about X, Y, or Z, especially when around intimacy. And if we do this, I might catch feelings. And I just think, I think communication is great. However, especially with someone where you're still, you're not in a relationship, you're not fully committed, you don't know them all that well, you still have inconsistency in your relationship, still inconsistency with communication. They can text you one day, they can, go 48 hours without reaching out to you. I just honestly think that if that's the situation you're operating in, which is a very common situation right nowadays when it comes to dating, you have to protect your heart. And asking a guy that you're dating to do that while he's still figuring out how he feels about you, I think is just a risky proposition. And we can kind of say, oh, well, they should do this. And you're right. I mean, I think we can be critical of these men, but I just think if your goal is to try to remove yourself from frustrating situations, I just think when it comes to intimacy and dating, if you have to say something like, hey, I just want you to know that if we do this and yada, 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 I'm going to feel a certain way. If you have to communicate that to a guy early on and you don't get an answer that blows your mind in the best possible way, and even that's still risky, I just think you have to proceed with caution.
Yeah. I think like it's not like I'm like texting, I'm like, hey, keep in mind, if we hook up, like you have to marry me. It's more so, and I think a lot of women and probably men too deal with this. It's like, you can't have like a simple, easy makeout. It's like once you start making out, you're like, oh, my balls hurt. Like if they don't, if they get turned on. And it's like, how do you navigate that? Because I'm like,
you tell them to fuck off in the nicest possible way. I mean, yeah, like we've said this on the show before. Blue balls, it's a myth. It's fake. It's made the fuck up. I don't know. And again, even if that's true, they can literally leave and go rub one out and jerk off. Like I've never understood this idea that somehow women, or if men date men, that somehow when it comes to men and dating, that the people they date are somehow responsible for making sure they don't have these mythical cramps or whatever the fuck. I don't even know what blue balls are. I really, truly I don't understand, other than like, yeah, like, I guess if I'm close to climaxing and I don't, like, bummer. But I've never had, like, and again, if I was like, oh, I guess I would, if for some reason I was in some sort of uncomfortable state, I could literally go home and take care of that. And this idea that somehow women or gay men, or whoever are hooking up with men, are somehow responsible to make sure that they climax for some sort of healthcare reason. That's absurd. It's fucking absurd. Yeah. So I would just, if I were you, roll your fucking eyes. I would say, like, honestly, don't put that on me. And like, that's, no. And when guys ask multiple times, I mean, listen, there's that fine line. You're making out, oh, come on, baby, and it goes both ways. But at some point, if you're just like, listen, I don't want to do this, and a guy keeps pushing, you don't have to get aggressive, but you can say, listen, I'm not, just so we're on the same page, this is not me trying to build the sexual tension. I really don't want to do this, and I really need you to respect that. And you say it calmly, and you give him that look where I'm not fucking around.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think when it comes to dating, just if nothing else, doing that, because like on some part that is on you. When you're telling the story, it's just like, well, I didn't want to give him head, but you know how it goes. I did. And I'm assuming you're still like saying this was consensual, right?
Yeah, it is, but like it's hard, Nick, because I'll literally be like, no. And I think that there's something about my boundaries and me being like, I don't know, I guess confident, that makes them want to pursue me more, or make them want to push harder. I'm pretty petite. I'm like 5'3", and I think that that's like a turn on for maybe the guys that actively pursue me, and they like the concept that they can maybe like convince me to do something. Because, and I know that sounds crazy, but I've like literally noticed this trend that I'm like, why do they push so hard when I say no? I mean, maybe that's men in general. I don't know.
I mean, sad. I can't speak for all men, and that's unfortunate to hear. Yes, listen, there's a fine line, that dating dance between that chase. We all love a chase. Men love to chase, women love to be chased, and I do think, that can be dicey and complicated,
Mm-hmm.
But these men need to respect these no's. It's that simple. And you need to respect your own boundaries in the sense of, if you're gonna say no, you keep saying no, and if they don't respect it, ask them to leave. But it can be confusing, right? When it's kind of like no, and I don't know how I don't know how you're saying no, but no should mean no. But like there is that dance in between where it's like, I don't know, we should do this, and then like I've been in situations where long ago, I don't know if you should. Oh, okay, cool, let's just stop. And she's like, well, no, I mean, like come on. It's like, listen, I don't like if you're gonna tell me no, I'm gonna stop. So like we need to be, with people I don't, really have a rapport with. So it can, as a man, it can be confusing, but like you should give them that look, that so to speak, where it's like, no. And then you stop, like that's the thing. If you're going to say no and they're not going to listen, you need to stop it all, because it can't, that's for both parties, it's like, oh, you're heavy petting, you're getting horned up, you're rubbing, you're touching. You're like, well, I don't want to do this, So, and if you're whatever whatever they're doing, if they're like trying to unbutton your pants and you're like, hey, listen, I don't want to do this. And they're like, okay. And then 2 minutes later you make out again, and they go down your pants again, immediately shut it all down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good red flag to like identify. It's like if you're revisiting that again, then maybe
they think your no isn't really a no.
Mm-hmm.
And you gave them a chance to respect that no and still make out and still fool around, but you could just be like, listen, I asked you no, and like and again, be polite and all those things, because you don't want, like, can be uncomfortable, and but I don't think you should have much of a leash with these guys who aren't respecting your no. I
agree. Mm-hmm. So I have a follow-up question about that guy. The end of our night kind of ended with us going to a comedy show and the comedians asking if we were together, kind of just doing crowd work. And I had said no because I was so annoyed with him at this time. And he wasn't even paying attention though. He's rapidly texting. He's not usually on his phone, but of course he's rapidly texting. And then as our night's kind of wrapping up, he's trying to rush me into a cab so that he can go home for the surgery. tomorrow. And I was
Weird.
like, no, I'm going to enjoy my night in New York. Like I paid for this hotel room for another night. Like I'm fine. I'm good. So he goes home, doesn't text me, nothing, never Venmo'd me for the flight. So I ended up like texting him like, hey, just so you know, like my feelings were hurt by this. It seemed like you were distracted and pulled away, but like, let's keep it cool and professional going forward. Happy holidays. And if you ever need anything, like you have like my LinkedIn and my work number, whatever. He never responded to that. So my friend encouraged me to send him like a Venmo request, which like typically I wouldn't do. It's not like I really needed him to pay for the flight, but I was like, I fronted all of this, all of my time, and you totally just like jerked me around. So I did Venmo request him for the flight, and he never paid me.
Not shocking. Listen,
Yeah.
he doesn't sound like the best guy. He sounds like a guy with a interesting kink, and it's a strong kink, right? You know, whatever you want to shame it or not, you know, it's a unique kink. I've never heard of it, you know, but whatevs. And he'd led with it pretty quickly. He had no shame in introducing it to you. His focus is sex. His focus, you know, is he was attracted to your nose. He was attracted to you, probably be like, I don't want to do this and I need to take my time. And it's shitty, you know? That's something, you know, for people out there, unfortunately, when you do wait, oh, you know, I'm going to wait and wait. I'm going to take it slow. I'm going to take it slow. Unfortunately, like, again, guys can wait 2 months, you know, for a challenge. And so you just really have to pay attention along the way. And if a guy during this, if you date someone, have a couple early good dates, right? You know, it's pretty good, you know, make out, you're like, I like this guy. There's a lot of green flags here. But then all of a sudden some red flags show up, some inconsistency. Well, if you know, this whole time, these 2 months before you hooked up, there was never a period where he was never not at some level inconsistent. There was never a period where he really was, you know, communicative. He followed through with the things he said. He was always reaching out. I would be willing to bet if you went back and looked at your communication via text, it was probably, if anything, when it came from him, very sexual in nature.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like, hey, like, tell me about your day and really trying to get to know you. So like these were data points that you were given that you kind of ignored over and your big barometer was 2 months, so to speak. It's like, oh, well, if I make him wait, you know, whether it's 6 weeks or 8 weeks, or if it's 3 or 4 months, like you weren't really paying attention to the data points, so to speak, because it's hard to do. You like the guy, and I'm not trying to, but like, I think it's something that for you to consider, because 2 months isn't that big of a deal. Right? 3 months isn't that much for a guy who's in his fuckboy era and he's not committed to you. So like, who knows, you know, he could fuck other people while he's waiting to have sex with you. You know, you're not in a relationship, you know? And so we needed to pay attention to those data points while you're making someone wait, so to speak, to think, is this guy really, like, what about anything he's done has shown that he's really pursuing me, that he's really trying to get to know me, that is consistently trying to make me feel safe and secure and comfortable and in control. Like, you should feel like you're in the driver's seat, like that you have the power. And that's, unfortunately, that's where it becomes really cloudy and gray, because, you know, that's that dance that you have to like make sure that you're still interested, because again, we like to be pursued and we like to, like, we love the challenge. And as soon as we find out someone's head over heels for us, we're like, I don't know. I'm like, do I like them? Are you sure? Like, why are they so obsessed with me? I don't understand. You know, like, is this person worth my time? And those are things you're going to have to figure out with your ego and, you know, because like, yeah, there's a reason why the stereotype of like the nice guys finish last and it's always the fuck boys and blah, 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 because these fuck boys like are very good at, you know, sounding uninterested and being busy, and that may make you feel like incomplete or like insecure about yourself. And then so instead of like, oh, recognizing these behaviors, it's more like that ego says, well, he likes you, babe. Like he likes you. He is really busy, and you just got to let this really busy, successful guy know that like you're here for the, you know, like you're great. You're a great catch. Let's show him how great you are. And that's just the challenge that you're going to have. And that's the challenge we all have to face, you know, when we're out there dating and trying to, you know, pursue what's really good for our hearts and trying to ignore our egos and our desire to feel validated and feel special. And that's that kind of dance that we always have to do. But at 28 years old, you're an intelligent woman with a successful job. You're an attractive person. You're going to have options. And you needed to just get good at, in addition to taking things slow and waiting, actually looking at the data points that these guys are giving you. Because this guy was giving you very obvious fuckboy data points.
Mm-hmm. So what do I do when I see him at an event? I'm going to see him in like 2 months. A month, I guess.
I would just ignore him. I mean, like, you don't need the money, and honestly, like, fine, you sent the Venmo request, no big deal. If you were to ask me, I would have just told you not to, because you don't need the money, and it's just, it's drama. It's keeping you invested in him. Him not paying you, it's kind of like, yeah, whatever. Maybe I'll get around it or whatever. It's like, it's making you think of him. Oh, this guy didn't pay me. It's just keeping you connected and attached to him. Like, at this point, you should just be like, I moved on, and like, just, I wouldn't don't beat yourself up or shame yourself for hooking up with him, like, learn the lesson and move forward, but like, whatever, it's not the last frog you're gonna like waste your time on, but really think about what you learned in this experience. And what you learned is, even though a guy can stick around and he can be patient with me, when I want to take things slow for sex, that's not the end all be all. Like, well, how is he also showing me that he actually wants to pursue me and get to know me, that he is enjoying getting to know me, that he enjoys spending time with me, and yeah, it can be somewhat confusing. Yeah, it's like, it seems like a big deal to say, oh, I'd love you to come out and spend time with my family. I don't think meeting someone's family or friends is all that a lot of people make it out to be, because we don't know how everyone interacts with their family and friends, It's like, and so those little like moments in a relationship, like, we sometimes will like, oh, well, he's invited me to see his family, he must like me. Maybe, but what's more important? That for the past 2 or 3 weeks, he was really inconsistent, and there were days within the past 2 weeks where you're like, is this motherfucker even interested in me? And then out of nowhere, he's like, oh, what are you doing for the holidays? You should come see my family. And then we forget about the past few weeks of him being inconsistent and him giving out these various red flags. You were like, oh, well, he wants me to meet his family. He loves me. So we just have to check in with ourselves more frequently and be more honest with ourselves about how these people, in your case, men, are behaving and showing us their actual interest in getting to know us. And even then, you're not gonna always get it right. But the good news for you in this particular case, there were data points that you did ignore. And so it's you have something to work with, so to speak. So is that helpful?
Yeah, that's helpful. I think that's really helpful, Nick, because to be honest with you, I've been feeling like it's me, and that I've been attracting like these absolute just like fuck boys. And they're not even that hot to be fuckboys. It's like one thing if they're like,
it has nothing to do with attractiveness. It has everything to do with how they are good at making you feel.
I know.
And these men are good at making you feel almost like devalued. And instead of seeing that as a red flag, you're seeing that as an opportunity to prove to them your value. And, listen, like, a lot of people talk about boundaries all the time, and but they're like, a lot of people aren't good at enforcing boundaries. I had this conversation recently with someone, Bachelor Nation, right? I'm a part of it. And people in Bachelor Nation date a lot. And I understand why, because relatable experiences, it can be very tiresome to go on dates with people outside of Bachelor Nation and outside of entertainment in general, and have to have people like ask weird questions, pretend they're not fans when they are. It can be very stressful, right? So I empathize with anyone in Bachelor Nation who dates within Bachelor Nation. I completely get it. And I had dated plenty in Bachelor Nation. And when I was done being the Bachelor, I set a boundary with myself. And that was, I'm not going to date in Bachelor Nation anymore. Not because there's not great options or there's great people. It's not for me. And to me, there was no more stresses than benefits. And listen, I can't predict the future. And maybe at some point in the future, I'll have to consider, not enforcing this boundary, because maybe I'll just fall in love with someone and they like, you're my person. Maybe that was going to happen, but I wasn't going to just go on random dates just because I thought they were cute or pretty. And I wasn't going to randomly hook up with anyone anymore in Bachelor Nation. And I set that boundary. and I enforced it. And there were plenty of opportunities over the following years and seasons where people like tried. And I was like, listen, you seem great, but like this is a boundary I set for myself and I never not enforced it. And there are plenty of other people in Bachelor Nation. I have heard it time and time again. Well, I told myself I would never dating someone in Bachelor Nation, but here I am again. It's like, you know what that is? That it is someone who just isn't enforcing a boundary. You can talk about your boundaries all fucking day long to yourself and your friends. Just because you name a boundary doesn't mean shit unless you're actually willing to enforce it. And yeah, enforcing a boundary is difficult. It is inconvenient. That's why they're called boundaries. The fact that you have to enforce it and that you have to come up with it in the first place means you identified a pattern about yourself or something that you were doing that didn't serve you well, and you wanted to make a change. Doesn't mean it was like it was bad per se, but like for me, I was like, listen, I don't know, like me dating in Bachelor Nation hasn't got me anywhere, so I want to get out of it. And there were plenty of moments. I met some wonderful people, some very attractive women where it's just like, I don't know, like I'm attracted to them. I think they're great, but I was like, you know what? I set this boundary for myself, so I'm going to enforce it. And at times that was super inconvenient for me. But that's what boundaries are. But we talk about boundaries all the time as if we just speak it, somehow we're going to automatically follow through. Mm-hmm. And it's the follow through part that matters. That's very difficult. And I think you could do a better job of following through with some of these boundaries you're setting for yourself. I think you could follow through with not only identifying some of these behaviors, but actually seeing it for what it is, rather than make excuses for it and then masking it as you being super empathetic. Because I think deep down, your intuition is better than you give it credit for, and you are just finding ways to ignore your intuition.
I agree. I'm a Virgo, so I'm very intuitive. I'm kidding. I know everyone's cringing.
That's okay.
No, but I agree. Actually, you're really right, Nick. I never thought about that because I do think sometimes I have too many rules. I have a lot of boundaries and I never thought about it that I don't actually follow through. I'm really good at setting them, but not as good as enforcing them. So
yeah, well, you're not alone in that. But I think that, I think we talk about our boundaries all the time. And when push comes to shove, we're rarely enforcing them. And it's like, I would have had, I told myself I was never going to date anyone in Bachelor Nation, as if like just saying that somehow I deserve some sort of medal because but there are people who do that. They'll say the thing and literally never enforce it. And you know what that is? They go like, well, just, they use that boundary that they allegedly set for themselves. They use it as some sort of like negotiation tool or manipulation tool, not necessarily intentionally. But they'll say to that person, well, I told myself I'd never date anyone in Bachelor Nation, but you must be special. So like, here we go, Oh, I told myself I've never dated anyone like you before. Oh, great. Congratulations. You're just admitting to someone that you're not willing to enforce a boundary that you're willing to set. And that they're so special that they're the exception of why you shouldn't enforce your own boundaries with them. That is not a way to like get someone to, take you seriously, to respect your decisions, to respect your nose. Like, again, like everyone should respect your nose. I'm not saying that's an excuse for a guy not, but like when you show a pattern of saying, well, I told myself I was going to do this, but I'm going to do this for you because you're special. You are telling someone that your boundaries don't really matter, that things you tell yourself that you're not going to do, someone can convince you otherwise. You're showing that with your actions by letting people know that you're willing to not enforce your own boundaries. So we need to be careful about that because we do it all the time. We're so quick to tell people about the boundaries we set for ourselves as if like, oh, just, I can set a boundary. Can you set a boundary? I can set a boundary. Oh, yeah. But no one ever fucking actually follows through. And it's the following through part that matters.
So do you think it's good also to keep your boundaries a little bit more mysterious?
To a certain degree, I don't think, yes. I think it's great to communicate boundaries, but be careful, like just bragging about it. Like saying it doesn't mean anything. If you say it and don't follow through, it is way worse than not saying anything at all, because you are communicating to someone that your boundaries don't matter to you and that they can convince you to constantly not enforce your boundaries. And you are setting a precedent with someone. And we do that all the time early in dating. And it's a recipe for disaster.
This is huge, Nick, because I'm like, this is what happens. Like, I'm like, why do I feel like I give a lot of respect? I'm a really caring person. And I feel like I'm constantly disrespected, but I think I'm showing them that I actually don't, but they can disrespect
you're showing
me.
them that like, you can, I might, it's, you're over communicating your boundaries and not following through with enforcing them.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there we go. We have a plan.
Something.
There we go. Listen, I honestly, I thought about this like the other week where it was, I just heard a story about someone and I'm like, yeah, that is someone who just doesn't know how to enforce a boundary. And I thought about just like how much we over communicate our boundaries, but very rarely follow through and what that means. So, you know, you're not alone, but I think together we came up with a nice little epiphany here.
Yeah, a good solution. I can still date, but just follow through with my boundaries.
Yeah, you're doing a lot of things right, it sounds like. I think your next step is just following through and actually looking at these actions of these men and, seeing it for what it is. And a timeline doesn't mean much. Again, waiting 2 months is not that hard for a guy, especially if you're not in a committed relationship. Just because they're not having sex with you, this guy, he's got a million different ways to satisfy his sexual kinks. But you saying,
he can do it himself. He doesn't even need me.
Yeah, but like you giving someone like, I just need to take things slow you're just challenging them. And guys love a good challenge. And they can cloud their own judgment. They can lie to themselves about like, oh no, I really like you. And like, again, like I'm not making excuses for these guys, but just know that you're operating with guys that until they kind of can meet that challenge, as soon as they do, yes, it will completely make them reassess how they feel about you. So stop making yourself such a challenge, and the more you make yourself a challenge or a conquest to be won or conquered, then you are going to run the risk of having to experience these men like almost like overnight act completely different to you. You're not a challenge. No. You're someone to get to know. You are someone that they should want to invest in, not because you're a challenge, but, it is a bit contradictory. I get, because then the next words out of my mouth, I'm going to be like, listen, when a guy, don't be so empathetic, don't be so understanding, be the busy person. And on some level, remember how you feel about guys you're not that interested in. And when you really like a guy, feel free to act that way, as opposed to understanding and always there and always available. And again, I hate kind of like, because it is a tightrope. It is such a dance between playing a game and not playing a game. I mean, the best approach, as I've said recently, is we always like when Johnny Woo was here, I loved his advice, and I'll use it over again, is just act how you want them to act. Demonstrate how you want someone to treat you. But to do that is you have to be able to cut bait and walk away very quickly when they don't. And this guy was not mimicking your behavior, right? For 2 months, this guy was doing his thing and you were doing yours, and you were making excuses for his behavior. So for 2 months, if you're gonna make a guy wait 2 months, and you're gonna act how you want them to act, well, you got to make sure that they are reciprocating in those actions. But you were acting one way, he was acting another, and you weren't holding him accountable for that.
Yeah, I should have. There are things he said too, like, there's so many young, impressionable girls at this bar, like when we met up in New York, and I'm like, I should have just walked away then.
Oh my God, that's such a weird fucking thing to say.
Right?
Yeah, lesson learned. But don't, it does you no good beating yourself up. It does you no good at being mad at yourself for sleeping with him. It's over. He's out of your life. Be grateful. You realized who he was. This could get gotten much worse. It really could have. You could have invested 6 months in this guy. He was going to keep you around until you finally said, I think you're full of shit. And finally, at least you did that right after you finally hooked up. So instead of beating yourself up about it, pat yourself on the back and then learn from it.
Cool. Thank you, Nick.
All right. Well, keep us posted. I'd love to know, like, just, we are closing the chapter on this guy, but I'd love to keep tabs on what did you do post this conversation? So maybe in 3 or 4 months, I'd love to get a follow-up on how you implemented this conversation into your dating life.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, take care.
Thanks, Nick.
All right. Bye-bye.
Baby.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Squeeze.com. It's time to get that juice cleanse on. It's no better time to start a juice cleanse than a new year. Just you want to detox all the bad juju from 2023, figuratively and literally. And a juice cleanse can help you do that. There are so many great health benefits that come with a juice cleanse, like weight loss, less bloating, if that's something you're interested in, clearer skin, increased energy, better sleep, Breaking bad habits. Fasting also slows the aging process and decreases the risk of diseases. It's always good to flush out the system nowadays. And you can do that with a juice cleanse with squeeze.com. And the best part is you're still drinking delicious juice. I mean, that's the important part. Enjoy the cleanse while you cleanse your body. And it's super easy and convenient. And chances are, if you decide, you know what, I should do a juice cleanse, you're going to want to start it right away. I know I am. Jump in, just get wet, just go and do it. And the good news is with squeeze.com, they have same-day local delivery or fast free delivery nationwide with code VIALL. Again, that's same-day local delivery or free fast delivery nationwide with code VIALL. That's squeeze.com. Vessie. God, we're loving what Vessie's doing out there. Right, in LA, everyone was wearing Vessies, keeping those feet dry. Vessie is making the most comfortable, driest shoes you can find. And we're not talking water-resistant people, we're talking waterproof. So whether you are a city walking warrior to getting from point A to point B by your feet, or maybe you like hiking or an adventurous person, Vessie is an incredible travel shoe because when it comes to traveling, you want to pack light. And if you don't want to take like 5 sneakers with you, just pack one, just pack your Vessies. Because they have your classic, white, classic basic looking sneakers that are aesthetically pleasing, also incredibly comfortable. And again, they keep your feet dry and safe. Embrace the elements this year with Vessie. With Vessie's distinctive styles, picture yourself stepping into the New York with confidence. Their shoes are more than just a fashion statement. They are an expression of your bold, trend-setting persona.
And they make them for kids.
I wish I had Vessies as a kid because it was during the winter. I always wanted to wear my tennis shoes. I was always like self-conscious about wearing my snow boots. I wanted to have cool-looking sneakers to wear to school enough to change my boots. And with Vessie, you can do that. Your kid can look cool and have dry feet all day long and not have their snow boots or water boots or whatever that is. No, just get them Vessies and they will be cool and dry all day long. If you're ready to step in the new year with style and confidence, Vessie's got you covered. With chic city walks to adventurous treks, find the perfect pair for your lifestyle at Vessie.com. That's VESSI.com/VIALL to get 15% off your first order. Again, that's Vessie.com/VIALL for 15% off your first order. How's it going?
Hi, I'm Emma. I'm 21, and I'm wondering if my married coworker is flirting with me.
Okay. All right. Why do you think they are? Is this a man or a woman?
This is a man. He's 33 and married with 1 kid. So I started working at this company about 2 years ago, and we grew pretty close for coworkers. We don't text outside of work, nothing inappropriate. I've never gotten any sort of flirtatious vibes from him, but we're close. And to some people, it might sound a little odd, but me and my friend joke that he's like the last good man on earth. He always seems like he has very pure intentions. He's very sweet. Like he'll bring me my favorite coffee, or if I'm cold, let me wear his jacket. But he's always done that in front of other people. So I'm like,
and does he do that with everyone?
He would, yes. But I'm a little bit younger than my other coworkers. So, and I work with mainly all men.
Okay.
So there is another older woman who works there, and he's like that with her. She's married. Okay. But he's done these things in front of other people. So I've always kind of thought if there was any weird or alien intent, it would be more secretive.
I mean, listen, getting you a cup of coffee and offering your coat is just him being a gentleman. There's nothing wrong with that. And good news that he did do it with the one other woman in the office. Sure. Mm-hmm. Fair enough. But why? That we can chalk that up as him being a gentleman. What else is making you wonder if he's flirting with you? And I guess my big question is why do you care?
So we had a company party, which tend to get a little crazy with the drinking.
As they do, yeah.
Yes. So we recently had one at the end of last month, and he got pretty drunk. And we were together the majority of the time, just hanging out, doing the games and whatnot. And he went to the restroom. He was starting to get sick. So I went in to go check on him. And I knocked on the stall. I was like, "Oh, are you, doing okay in there?" And he opened the stall, and I went in, and he grabbed me and hugged me, which is fine. I didn't feel uncomfortable, and he's like, "Oh, I love you so much. I really, truly I love you so much. Like, You're the reason I want to come to work. If I don't want to come, I think of you and you make my day better. But I feel that same way about him, but completely platonically. If I'm having a bad day, I'm like, oh, I'll go talk to him. Like, makes me feel better.
And was he hammered when he said all this?
Yes.
Okay.
So I was like, and when you get drunk with your friends, my girlfriends, I'm like, oh, Everett, I love you so much. So again, I didn't really take it any type of way. I left him alone. Actually, funny enough, I was like, I know this isn't weird, but if someone walks in, this probably would look a little strange. So I was like, hey, do your stuff. I'm going to go back to everyone. And someone actually walked in as I was walking out. So I was like, that could have looked a little weird, but whatever. People know that we're close. So a little bit later in the night, he was sitting in his office, and I was like, hey, are you doing okay? And there was no one around, and he grabbed me and pulled me onto his lap. He was sitting in his chair and wrapped his arms around me. And again, I wasn't uncomfortable or weirded out just because I know that he's a gentleman, like you said.
That's inappropriate.
Yeah.
His wife would be fucking pissed.
Yes, that's my thoughts as well. And if I was his wife, I'd be mad too. I'm like, even though I know I don't have any feelings or anything like that towards him, it is inappropriate.
Okay.
So I was trying to get up, be like, come on, let's just go back with everyone. He was still pretty drunk at this point. And he's like, no, stay here. Kept trying to pull me back onto his lap. And then he said, I have to tell you something. I have to tell you something. I didn't know what he was going to say, but I almost feel...
Yeah, you
I
do.
was like,
your intuition was that he was going to admit to some kind of weird feelings for you and try to downplay and be like, I don't know, I really just think you're great. And I don't know what I'm trying to say. And, it was going to be some bullshit like that, right?
That's
your
what
intuition.
I thought.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I didn't want him to say that because I was like, I don't want this can of worms to be opened. Yeah. So I was like, no, don't say anything. You don't want to say anything. Let's just go back. And he's like, no, really. I really have to. And I was like, no, just come on. And then someone walked in. And so I was like, okay, look, come on, let's go. This other coworker just walked in. Then he started whispering. He's like, no, I really have to. And I said, come on, just go. So he didn't end up saying whatever he was going to say, thankfully. And then when we went back outside with everyone else, we were standing on the same side of a table together, and he slapped my ass.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, so we've crossed way over being a gentleman, and we've gotten into sexual misconduct.
This might just me being naive, but even that, I was like, it didn't make me feel uncomfortable just because I was like, I've always felt so like he would never do anything that way. So in my head, I was like, maybe that was a mistake. He's drunk. Maybe his...
Yeah, I mean, maybe. But I'm glad you didn't feel uncomfortable for your sake. But he didn't have the right to do that. Even if it is the fact that he's a married man, if you guys were both single, minus the fact that you're coworkers, he took a risk to slap your ass and lucked out that you weren't deeply offended by it. But you had the right to be. But he's not single. He's married. Mm-hmm. So, all right. So, listen, here's my advice to you. It doesn't really matter to me what he feels about you. And then it's like, oh, well, he was drunk. So yeah, I mean, and there's probably, my guess is it's something like this, right? Where a lot of affairs that happen this way, right? 30-something guy, early in his marriage, or maybe, I don't know how long he's been with his wife, probably been with her for a few years. They just had their first kid. That's an adjustment, sex changes, during pregnancy and early childhood and things like that, and then he goes to work and he meets this very attractive, very put together young lady who's nice and sweet and doesn't flirt with him and acts professional, but very considerate, and he's nice, and he just he starts thinking to himself, oh, if I was she's, he's attracted to you. And that's not even a crime, whatever, just because you're married doesn't mean you can't be attracted to other people, but what you do with that matters. And he is playing with fire, it's every day he gets a little closer to leaning into whatever fantasies he has about you. And now then he had alcohol in his body and he got a little loose. And yeah, maybe he probably woke up and was like, oh, what the fuck did I do? I can't believe I did that. I'm never going to do that again. That's entirely possible. And hopefully that's the case. But my point to you is you need to be very careful.
Mm-hmm.
You are not going to get the benefit of the doubt, unfortunately. Women in the workplace, when it comes to sex and affairs and things like that, if you don't know this already, I'm here to tell you that everyone's going to blame you first. You'll be a convenient scapegoat. You know, oh, the young 21 temptress, blah, blah, blah. She knew what she was fucking doing, blah, blah, blah. She'll want to, his wife will want to blame you. He'll throw you under the bus. Be very careful.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that you are a nice person and you're considerate, but it's not the first time he's gotten drunk. He doesn't need you looking after him.
Mm-hmm.
He can go and puke on his own and he'll figure it out. His life wasn't in danger. And if he makes a fool of himself, that's on him. He's an adult. You're not his girlfriend, certainly. You're kind of his friend, but even as his friend, there are certain boundaries I think you need to start setting for yourself and enforcing in terms of situations you put yourself with him. You should never be alone with him in his office. That's not like midday, very much work-related, work conversations. Be careful about your proximity around him. And you don't have to make it weird, for your sake and his sake and everyone's sake, and more specifically your sake. I would just act like nothing happened and just be very professional around him. You can be nice. I don't think you have to start being distant. And if you don't feel uncomfortable, you don't have to remove yourself. But I would just be very careful about how you interact with him. And you can't control what he's going to do, but just be very careful about the environment and situations you put yourself in with him, because you're just not going to get the benefit of the doubt if he pulls some shit and, things go south.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not worth it for you.
Yeah. And if he did say I was scared that he was going to say something because I'm not interested in him in that way. I really do love him as a friend, but
you don't need to say that anymore.
Okay.
And I get it. I understand it. And I get it. Like your instinct is like, I'm not attracted to him. He really is a friend. I am capable of being friends with men. And I get it. I get where your intentions are coming from, but you got to consider the fact that you can't control how he interprets your actions.
Mm-hmm.
And you are a woman. He is attracted to women. He is married. The coworker aspect, the fact that you're younger, there's a lot of built-in just like forbidden kind of, it feels wrong so it feels good type of shit going on for him. There's a lot of landmines here, so you need to just be aware of that. Don't be naive, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your intentions are. It won't matter. So I think you need to be very careful, regardless of what your intentions are, of the situations you put yourself in around him. And the good news is you're getting ahead of it. Like nothing has really gone too far where you can't reset your behavior to protect yourself and ultimately protect him from himself. But I would just be very mindful of how you interact with him, what you say to him. I would keep it very professional. Be friendly, but you didn't stop saying you love him as a person. No hugs. You don't look out after him. If it's cold out, wear an extra coat. You know what I'm saying? Like all those little like gentleman things. Like he doesn't need to be a gentleman to his coworkers. And quite frankly, when it comes to my employees, like I like to think of myself as a gentleman, but at the same time, also their boss, and like they're adults and they can wear coats. And short of me opening a door for my employees, like that's where my like chivalry starts and stops when it comes to my employees, and boundaries are important to me.
Yeah.
And he is not enforcing his own boundaries, and he is taking advantage of your niceness and your innocence, I guess, on some level. And it doesn't mean he's a bad guy. And it doesn't mean, again, I think he is going down I think he's just playing with fire, and he's convincing himself he's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was in hindsight, now that it's, laid all out, it's definitely, I've come to terms with more with what his intentions were. But when it first happened, I was like, he's such a, I guess, quote unquote, stand-up guy. I was like, I don't even know if that really was his intentions. Like, he talks about his wife with me. He's never tried to hide anything.
I'm sure he's 95% the guy that you think he is.
Mm-hmm.
But he is crossing some very serious boundaries, you know? Can't be that great of a guy. I'm sorry. I just would never slap the ass of another woman. I'm in a relationship. Yeah. That's just me. I'm not trying to sound all righteous and shit, but I certainly wouldn't do it with a coworker. I wouldn't do it with anyone. But so it doesn't. But the fact that, you know, he is doing it with you is not the most righteous individual.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and just because he's willing to open a few doors and be a gentleman, there's a lot of fucking shady dudes who are very chivalrous, you know, so
yeah,
just know that. Yeah. Their actions matter way more than their words. And, you know, people aren't all good or all bad. He's probably he's a decent guy who is certainly capable of making poor decisions for himself. And my advice to you is just you need to be careful.
Okay.
Because you won't get the benefit of the doubt if things go south. You'll be an easy scapegoat as a young woman in the workplace. It's not fair, it's not right, but it is the reality.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay?
Yeah. Thank you.
No problem.
It was very eye-opening.
Okay. Well, going forward again, I don't think you need to over-respond. I don't think you need to really change anything other than just be careful about the environments and the situations you put yourself in around him. And just be very professional. Be nice. You can still be your same nice person. You don't have to act awkward around him, but have some very clear boundaries for yourself and make sure you're enforcing them. And don't make excuses for him just because he's nice.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And if you ask yourself, would I be okay if my boyfriend was doing this with another woman? Then that's the only answer you need to ask yourself.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you for the call.
Thank you for chatting with me.
Happy to do it. Keep us posted. We'd love an update on what moves you made or what changes you made and how he responded and all those things.
Okay. I will keep you guys updated.
All right. Take care.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye-bye. BetterHelp. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. BetterHelp has been a mainstay, a friend of the show for some time because we love how BetterHelp is helping people get into therapy like never before. Allie has talked about BetterHelp over and over. Before she got into therapy, she talked about therapy all the time. Oh, I should do that. I should find it. And listen, it's hard, you know, like who should I go to? What type of therapist should I get? Who do I ask? It's kind of a personal thing. Hey, do you know a good therapist? Not always easy to do. It can be costly. It can be inconvenient, you know, in-person therapy. Well, BetterHelp helps with all those things. It's more affordable than in-person therapy, and it's incredibly convenient. You can do it from the comfort of your home, your tablet, your phone. You can, you know, whatever your comfort level is, you know, face-to-face, like video calls, or you can do voice-to-voice. And because BetterHelp is working with more and more therapists every day, finding a therapist that's right for you and that you're comfortable with is super easy because, you know, you'll go to BetterHelp.com, you'll fill out like what you're looking for, and, you know, what do you want to talk about? Is it money or is it relationships? It doesn't really matter. You don't need a reason. Whatever it is, they will identify a therapist that they think is right for you. But like, listen, sometimes trial and error, you got to take a few cracks at the bat. And it's super easy with BetterHelp to find the therapist that you connect with, that you feel comfortable with, you feel seen with, that understands you, and you feel like challenges you in a way that you get an impact from. Can't say enough of good things about what BetterHelp is doing when it comes to getting people into therapy, because that's what it's all about, right? Become your own soulmate, whether you're looking for one or not. Visit BetterHelp.com/VIALL today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/VIALL. BetterHelp.com/VIALL for 10% off your first month. Grammarly. Well, if you don't know where commas go, like me, or maybe you're bad with grammar, like me, or maybe you're just like too busy to reread all your emails and you don't want to, like, maybe you sent that email that like maybe you sound like kind of a dick, you know, and maybe you didn't mean to sound like a dick. Maybe you're just in a rush. Well, things like tone suggestion or just like basic grammar mistakes, Grammarly is changing the game when it coming to making you and your team far more efficient and more professional in the workplace. Listen, like there's a lot of stereotypes when it comes to like grammar mistakes and spelling mistakes when it comes to emails. Most people just think you're a dumb idiot. Well, if you're like me, maybe you're not a dumb idiot. Maybe your just brain doesn't work that way. And honestly, for me, proofreading and all that stuff is just like time consuming. Well, let Grammarly do the tedious tedious work for you. Save time with one click and go from editing drafts in hours to seconds. 93% of professionals using Grammarly Premium report that it helps them get more work done.
So I send a lot of emails, a lot of talent booking emails, and grammar is so important, and the tone of your email is really important. You know, you want to craft an email in a way that's going to get response. And so it's like incredibly important, especially in a cold email. And Grammarly helps get the tone, get the commas in the right place. And it really saves my butt with these emails.
Make a bigger impact at work with Grammarly. Sign up and download for free at Grammarly.com/podcast. That's GRAMMARLY.com/podcast. Again, that's Grammarly.com/podcast. How's it going?
Hi, I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. What's your name?
My name is Jordan, and I am 30 years old.
Nice to meet you, Jordan. How can we help?
So I need your help because my mom won't accept that I no longer want to be a part of the Mormon religion.
Okay. All right. Is this a recent decision you've made for yourself?
So kind of some background on the story. I was born and raised in Utah, very much grew up in like the Mormon bubble. And back in 2020, I kind of started separating myself from the church. I felt like growing up in the Mormon religion, you're kind of just like expected to just like go along with everything. My parents were always like super involved in the church. I was never super stoked on it, but I was like a very obedient child. And then back in 2020, I kind of started separating myself from the church. And then throughout that year, I kind of had my eyes open to some things. I moved in with my boyfriend at the time, which is very against the church's religion. And like I had gotten some tattoos and I had stopped going to church. So basically I felt like I was like kind of living this secret life because I wasn't saying anything to my parents.
You had a
about it.
one-way ticket to hell as far as
Literally, I was like, my parents are no longer gonna love me. This is awesome. And so I kind of felt like I was living this like secret life. I started going to therapy, and one thing we really like talked about in therapy was like I was never good at like expressing my emotions. Because growing up in the church, you're kind of expected to be perfect.
Yeah.
So it didn't feel okay to bring up anything. So I basically came to the conclusion that I wanted to write a letter to my parents and just kind of like put it all out on the board. Like, this is how I'm living my life. Take it or leave it, basically. And I also wanted to do that because I knew I could come off as like defensive anytime like I did have any conversations with my parents. So I just wanted to like open a line of communication and be like, I want to have a relationship with you. This is how I'm living my life. I hope like you'll accept it and you'll still love me and we can like.
Okay. So the tone wasn't necessarily like, fuck you, this is who I am. Okay. It was like, I love you, I care about you, I want to be in your life, but these are my choices I'm going to make. And it's not a matter of if, but this is what I'm doing. And it's just a question is, are you still going to respect and love me as your daughter? And we can have a relationship, even though I don't necessarily make choices that you guys agree with.
Yes. Yeah. I actually wrote two versions of the letter. The first letter, I was like very mad and I just like got all my emotions out. And then the second version was very like loving, very just like,
great,
let's move on from here.
Smart.
So after that, we had like one conversation. My dad, he was a lot more like open to it and kind of like more curious of my thoughts. My mom was just like very set in her ways, which I understand. When you've lived a religion your whole life, I get that that can be hard if somebody else doesn't believe what you believe. So we had like one conversation, and then basically from that, I felt like it has just been like kind of like an ignorance is bliss type of thing. It's like they don't ask me about it, so we just kind of moved on. So I thought all was well. And then here we are at Christmas a couple weeks ago. I went home for Christmas and we're all opening presents. Everything's great. I have one older sister who's married who is still
very active in the church,
part of the religion.
Yeah.
And we get through presents and my mom goes, I have one more present for you guys. And we were like, okay. She gives us the present and we each got a letter from her, which is very not like her. Like she's not one to write letters. So I like am reading the letter. And it was very nice at the beginning. Like, I'm so glad you came home for Christmas, yada, yada, yada. And then the second part of the letter, she starts like bearing her testimony.
Sharing shame and judgment. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I'm so disappointed.
Like,
my heart, it makes me so sad that you're.
Yeah. And she was like, I've made it a goal for 2020 for our family to study the scriptures together this year. And so I want you to be a part of that. And we're going to, twice a month, we're going to get on Zoom and we're going to study the scriptures together. And literally, I did not say anything. I was just like, and my like whole demeanor changed. Like my sister was like, oh, I could tell you were mad. And because in that moment, I was like,
yeah, this is all about you. It's manipulative.
yeah. And I'm like, that can be your goal. Like, that's awesome. But like, I've made it clear that like, I don't
How
want
did
to
you
be a part of
respond?
it. And I just didn't say anything. And then we just kind of like,
So
moved
there's really
on.
been no response up until this point.
There's been no response.
Okay.
And so what's hard about it is like, I've never tried to like put my beliefs on her because I'm just to the point where I'm like, if that makes you happy, I'm stoked for you, but it doesn't make me happy. So it just feels like she can have her beliefs, but like I can't have my beliefs.
I mean, also, like, let's just get into the fact that you're a 30-year-old woman. And even if you were like active in the church, it's like, sorry, mom, not going to make your like weekly family meetings.
Okay, thank you. And so, and what's hard, and this is where I like know where her brain is coming from, is like in the church, like you're very much taught like you're in charge of your like children's salvation and you guys all need to be together.
Sure.
And so like I know for her, it's more of like a, oh my gosh, it's my responsibility.
Yeah. She's feeling, she's probably feeling that shame and judgment that you're feeling from her.
Yeah.
She's feeling it from her church and her peers. So that's an opportunity for you to have empathy for your mom and how we help for the anger that you're maybe feeling towards your mom. It's just like, listen, all you can do is understand where she's coming from. And I have found just in life, like one of my biggest, like, I think skills that has helped me navigate life and adulthood and interpersonal relationships is it just like, you can, again, people often confuse empathizing with someone with agreeing with them. Empathizing is just like understanding potentially why they think the way they do or why they're making decisions that they're making. Not that you would make those decisions, but it's like, all right, I get it to a certain extent. Like that empathizing is just coming to an explanation as why the people do what they do, short of you thinking they're just fucking insane or monsters or narcissists or just idiots. You know?
Yeah.
Because when someone does something that we don't agree with or we wouldn't do ourselves, we have to try to understand their motivations.
Yeah.
You know? And so your mom, empathizing with your mom is just saying, understanding why she is feeling this pressure and where it's coming from. And her writing you this letter isn't just simply her saying, fuck you, I don't respect you, I'm disappointed in you, you suck. Which I'm sure it can feel like that sometimes. Empathizing with your mom is just being like, yeah, I don't know, she's probably feeling this pressure. And like, this is your mom's, I don't know how old, 50, 60, 70 years old,
60,
right? And, right. So it's like 60 years of being inundated by her church and the pressure she must feel. And the tricky thing about religion is we're raised to think it's all inherently good. It's about sacrifice and things like that. So even when it's difficult, even when our religion asks us to do difficult things, we think we're being righteous. Mm-hmm. And it's so complicated, right? So all you can do, and I say that because like the worst thing you can do is for yourself is to just allow yourself to get really pissed off at your mom for not necessarily respecting your letter or your boundaries. And you have the right to do that, but it's not going to get you anywhere because your goal, because I'm guessing, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, is to like have a relationship with your parents and love your parents. And so to do that, you're simply going to have to accept that before you ever showed up in this world, they had 30 years of being committed to this religion and their whole lives. And to ask them to reprogram themselves is maybe an impossible task. And it's not really your responsibility or your concern. It can help you just empathize. So I guess to me, I don't see this letter as that big of a deal. I see it as an expected moment. Your mom was never going to just give up and accept this decision at face value. That was never going to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we can almost, instead of getting mad, you can honestly be like, okay, this is, I wasn't sure what form it was going to come in, but this is what it is. And you know what? How endearing for mom. She doesn't give up. She's a fighter. She's committed. I mean, honestly, like there are some aspects of your mom doing this that we could attribute positive qualities to.
Yeah.
It's just she is channeling it in a way that you don't agree with.
Yeah.
All right. So how do we handle this? Yeah.
I feel like what I'm trying to figure out at this point is to like clearly I need to have another conversation that's like, I'm not going to do the scriptures with you, but like, I know she's going to take it like so personally because it's like her job to
that's the guilt. That's where you as your daughter have to like recognize that parents can be manipulative.
Yeah. And I'm like, how do I word it? Because I don't want to make her feel bad. Like, and I love that she loves the church. I think that's so awesome.
Do the thing you did before. Write that letter, read it, make sure it's the tone that you want, so to speak. Maybe be willing to write it again. But the tone is, you know, it maybe a letter's best. You know, maybe you're clearly we're communicating via letters, so we can keep it.
I kind of want to be a big girl. I just want to say it to her at this point.
Well, that's fine too, as long as you can.
The letter got it.
So you call her up and say, "Hey, Mom, listen, I thank you. First of all, thank you for the gift. I know it came from love, and Mom, I respect you. I love you. I would if I were you, I would think about characteristics that you inherited from your mom that you admire about yourself and her. And I would say, Mom, you are this, you are that. I love that, and I feel like I am grateful to have inherited those qualities that you have. I think sometimes we maybe channel it differently, but I just want to say how much I love and respect you. I just want to start there, and I want to thank you. And I'm sure this might disappoint you, and I am sorry for disappointing you because, you know, as your daughter, I never want to do that. But as your adult daughter, I hope you recognize that sometimes I'm going to, and it's not because I don't love you, and I don't respect you, but I do have to make choices for myself. And I'm not going to participate in these scriptures because I choose not to be a part of the church. And again, I'm so sorry, Mom, that breaks your heart because I really understand where you're coming from. I really do, Mom. I do. Yeah. But I have to be my own self. And I love you so much. And I just hope from the bottom of my heart, you and Dad will still love and accept me for who I am. And I have accepted that you aren't happy with my choices. I get that. I really, really do, Mom. But like, is this where I'm at? And I'm just asking you to respect that and just kind of just always keep it positive and like stand your ground. You just got to stand your ground. You can't react to your mom. You know, it's when we get mad and we match her energy. It's when we do the same thing they're doing. It's like, oh, well, they're going to do this. So fuck that. I'm going to do that back. Right. That's when your mom knows she's got you, so to speak. Your mom wants you to care about, that's why parents like shame. That's why parents guilt. Because, you know, they know it fucking works. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. You know,
that's the worst.
And they fucking know it. And I'm going to say that shit to my daughter, you know, and I'm going to, you know, until it stops working, I'm going to fucking do that because like shame and guilt is a powerful teaching tool because I do want my kid to have a conscience and I want to work on their character. And your parents did that. But at some point you became an adult. And at some point you decided to make decisions for yourself. And some parents have a very hard time with that. I got very lucky. I mean, I was raised in a hardcore Catholic family, very similar to the Mormon, with a lot of like very traditional, you know, my parents practice a very traditional lifestyle when it comes to Catholicism, but like they had so many fucking kids. When I turned 18, they're like, oh, good luck. I don't have time to parent you anymore. And I got lucky for that, but not everyone is like that, you know? Yeah. And so you just have to show your parents your willingness to stand your ground while not reacting to them. In a way that it's a simple thing. Yeah. It's very hard to do, but like it's not complicated how to execute. And so you just got to stay consistent, lead with love, and not react to their manipulation and all their little things that they did that you're used to that still, even as a 30-year-old woman, work.
Yeah, I know. That's what's so frustrating. I'm like, I am a grown adult, but here we are. I'm scared you're not going to love me anymore.
They're going to love you. They will. It's in their blood. They can't help it. And just your mom writing this letter is an act of love.
Yeah.
It is. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like disrespect, but it is an act of love where your mom's coming from. She is doing it because she thinks it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And she loves you.
So then from here, like, she's persistent. You know what I'm saying? Like she loves to like send a church talk in the group family message.
Sure. You just I'm a part of a group family chat I never fucking respond to. And you know, I got a lot of shit for a while. And then I just like, I have an ability. I've had it my whole life. I don't know where I get it from, but when it comes to doing what I think is right, and I'm not always right, but I'm able to follow through with what I believe to be right. And I've never been a people pleaser. I've never easily succumbed to peer pressure. And even when it comes to family and parents, that like, it's like, hey, I'm this is what I'm going to do, and you can respect it, you cannot like it, but I'm going to follow through with this.
Mm-hmm.
And I also love getting feedback. I'm coachable, I've always had like tough coaches, but I'm willing to like follow through with my decisions. I'm willing to enforce my boundaries.
Yeah.
So, this is just a next step in your evolution as an adult, and this is you dictating the relationship with your parents and not the other way around. I mean, this is really the first time in your life in 30 years that you are willing to try to dictate your relationship with your parents rather than let them dictating it with you. And and like, think about that. It's for 30 years. They, at one point you came out of your mom's body and you were this baby child. You know what I'm saying? Like, you were they had to, like, that's so, I mean, I don't know what it's going to be like. I'm an expecting father. It's going to probably blow my fucking mind.
Yeah.
But so that's this, again, empathizing where your parents are coming from. Because I think as kids, we get so angry at our parents for, being imperfect parents, which they all are. And we get older and then like, well, fuck you. And instead of just like empathizing and understanding where they're coming from, we get angry with them. And that's not fair. And we blame them for what they got wrong and how is, because I'm sure your parents, did some shit and caused you to have some sort of fucking childhood trauma that you probably haven't even dealt with yet. I don't know, like we all have,
Yeah.
So we can choose to be angry at our parents, or we can choose to just understand them and then set new boundaries with them. And again, this is all under the kind of assumption that, we're talking about normal mistakes parents make, not abuse or not act, that you are in a dangerous environment or something like that. That's a different conversation. But I think for you, you got to lead the charge, and you got to keep finding that courage and that strength to stand up to mom and still love her and be brave enough to realize that, they're not, and you're, look at your mom going to throw a fit. Your dad's going to be like, come on, babe. And then, maybe you and your mom don't talk for like a month. I don't know. And then you'll talk to your dad and your dad will be like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it'll do that thing, but they're not going to disown you.
I know. I got to remind myself that.
Yeah.
They haven't disowned me yet. So
yeah, you'll just be the person who like, they're just going to worry is burning in hell.
Yeah. It's fine.
It's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
I like it though. I just need to have a conversation. That's
all. It's just an adjustment, And I get where you're coming from, and I get where your fear comes from. But I even if your mom does try to disown you, you got to stand your ground. You got to stand your ground.
Okay.
Because she literally thinks she's saving you from hell. So
I know that's what's crazy is like, and I don't want to break her heart. Like your salvation or like my salvation is not your job. Like.
Well, to her it is, to her it is. So you just,
it is. I know.
You have to empathize with that and say, listen, mom, well, I know I'm not making all the decisions that you agree with. Just know that like, it is important to me to be a good person. I am who I am because of you and dad. My character matters to me. And again, I understand I'm not always making decisions that you agree with, but like, I do want to thank you for raising me to be the woman that I am. And I feel good about who I am, and I feel good about the choices I make and in the integrity that I have, and yada, yada, yada. And again, like, find ways to thank her for what she has done. It's hard. It's going to be hard for your mom to get mad at you when you write a whole letter of like how you admire her and how you're so grateful to have all these characteristics that she has. It's going to be hard. Like, it's going to be hard to get mad at you when she's like, oh my God, like I'm a great mother.
You're right.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So like, she's going to manipulate a little bit back,
Perfect.
All right.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Please keep us posted. We love a good update, especially when it comes to these type of dynamics. I'm sure there's thousands of people listening to this who relate to you very much.
Yes, I will definitely give you an update.
All right. Well, take care.
Okay. It was good to talk to you.
You as well. All right. Bye-bye. As always, don't forget to send in those questions at AskNick@theviallfiles.com for all things texting office hours, Ask Nick mediation. You know the drill. We are back tomorrow with the one and only Diablo Cody, award-winning Oscar writer. You know her from the movie Juno. She's got a new movie called Lisa Frankenstein coming out. She's also a big reality TV pop culture fan, and she will be with us to break down all of your favorites like Vanderpump, Bachelor, Traitors, and whatever else is going on in the world. So that is tomorrow. And then on Thursday, we have the iconic Viall with us. You will not want to miss that. That is an incredibly fun episode with Viall. So another banger week for you guys. Hey guys, if you loved what you listened to, make sure you hit that subscribe button below. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.